Low-key geek. Hey, he's a low-key geek. He tries to be out there when he wants to be, but hey, he's low-key. He's a low-key geek.
Welcome and bienvenido, yokoso, and welcome back to another Low-Key Geek podcast here live on Monday. It is July 13th. I decided to go global there for a minute, but welcome guys. Welcome to another show. I believe this is episode 17? I don't really remember, but it's kind of hard to keep track, and it's funny that it's been this many episodes so far, but hope you guys are coming back from a great weekend. Here on the East Coast, we had a lot of rain, but yesterday it turned out to be a gorgeous day. So I hope you guys, wherever you're located, took advantage of your weekends to either chill out, spend some time with friends and family, maybe jump into the car and go to a drive-in, kind of like what I did last week for the first time, and that was a lot of fun. Got to see Ghostbusters and Jurassic Park back up on the big screen. Lots of fun there. Highly recommend it. And look, if this is the new norm and this is the way to go, then I'm all for it. I'm a big fan of drive-ins. But yeah, as for myself, not that crazy of a weekend. Again, I had another D&D session with my buds, so we're really progressing really well along in that campaign. Watched a couple of things, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And, got to catch up with a very, very great friend of mine. So I was really, really happy about that. But hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Again, this is the weekly podcast where I talk about all things in pop culture news, kind of provide my own views and insights and opinions on what the hot topics are out there. So if you like what you see, do hit that like and subscribe button, especially the like button, because that really, truly helps with the algorithms of this YouTube space that we all live in here. And for those of you who are back, either watching live or on the replay, then welcome back. I'm always happy to have you guys jump in and join in on the fun there. As always, if you're watching live, feel free to comment anything in the chat section. I do monitor it, and I will address any questions that you may bring up. So, I'm always engaging the community to, have great conversations about the things that they're passionate about. And if you're like me, that's all things in pop culture. So that being said, as I like to do every Monday, I kind of like to review and discuss what was the hot stuff that you guys were watching, as far as video on demand or streaming. So let us dive into the latest in video on demand there. So give me 1 second as I pull the graphic up over here. So yes, so first I like to start off with iTunes, the iTunes movies, the top 10 movies from the weekend. So just like last week, number 1, The Outpost, is very well represented there. It is kind of a army combat action movie. It stars Orlando Bloom, the Eastwood kid. I forgot his name. But yeah, again, this was the top movie from last week, so that comes in again at number 1. Number 2, Trolls World Tour. Again, the very popular family-friendly kids animated movie represents itself very well on this list. It has been pretty much in mostly. There were some weeks where it was out, but I would say for the last 3 months, it's been pretty much high on the charts and always found itself in the top 10. So that comes in at number 2. Now, interesting trend from the weekend. There's a lot of World War movies that were trending. So first, you have 1917, which is the World War I movie. Very well shot, very well done. This is a movie that I've always recommended to so many people. A very gorgeous storytelling and cinematic experience. So that comes at number 3. Number 4, we have a brand new horror thriller here, Relic. Relic is a new kind of haunted house thriller type of movie. Basically, it's about a story where you have a family and a grandmother passes away. So the mother and daughter kind of go to the house where she resided in, and some mysteries around her death and mysteries around the family itself unravels in this really horror thriller type of movie setting. So that comes in at number 4. Number 5, you have Archive. This movie is another brand new movie here. It stars Theo James. Basically, it's a sci-fi movie. It takes place somewhat in the future, and it's about a husband who loses his wife in a terrible accident, and basically the husband is trying to basically bring her back to life. Her memories were preserved in what they call the archive, and with the utilization of AI and robotics, he's trying to transfuse these memories into this new body. And of course, the organization of Archive and other forces are going to do what they can to stop him. So kind of like a sci-fi adventure there. Number 6, you have Force of Nature. This was the Mel Gibson movie that released recently. This was a little higher on the list from last week. Higher on the list last week. So it dropped a little bit here. Again, one thing I mentioned from last week was that he's really not in this movie that often. So I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard, he rarely makes an appearance. So it's kind of funny how he has the top billing here. Number 7, here's the other World War movie from the weekend, and this is more centered around World War II. So you have Saving Private Ryan. Really classic Steven Spielberg movie here, and starring Tom Hanks, Matt Damon. You have a Vin Diesel in here, a young Vin Diesel. So a really great cast of characters. Very well done movie. This is probably in the Spielberg realm of movies. This is definitely my top 5. So it's nice to see it kind of resurge and back into people's minds and wanting to watch it. So number 8, you have Elizabeth Moss, Invisible Man. This has been in the top 10 for as long as I can remember. Every week I'm always mentioning this movie. Every week I'm mentioning how great of an actress she is, and every week I keep telling you guys that I'm going to watch it. So I just got a notification from Vudu that I have some credit, so I think I will use that towards finally renting this movie. So hopefully I can catch it, and I'll give my thoughts about it next week. Number 9, you have Dunkirk. So here is the other World War movie, World War II centric movie. This is the Christopher Nolan movie that came out. This is I think this is his most recent movie that came out. So really, really great movie. Really very well done. If you're a fan of Christopher Nolan, then you will definitely love this movie. If you're a fan of World War movies, especially the World War II genre, this is a great movie to watch. Very well done. Great acting, great cinematography, everything you can expect from a Christopher Nolan movie. So interesting that this comes in again in a weekend that was filled with World War movies. So very interesting stuff there. So that is at number 9. And number 10, we close out this list here with Impractical Jokers, the movie. I myself am not that familiar with Impractical Jokers. I know they have a huge following online, so I guess they decided to do a movie, and here it comes in at number 10. So moving on to what folks were watching on Netflix. Top 10 streaming on Netflix. So number 1, the new movie with Charlize Theron, action-adventure movie based off of the graphic novel The Old Guard. That comes in at number 1. Now, I was trying to find some time to watch this over the weekend. I kind of ran out of time, but I am planning to watch this either today or tomorrow. So I've been hearing nothing but great stuff about this. Some people are calling it the best action movie on Netflix and possibly the best action movie of the year so far. So definitely interested to catch it. But obviously, a lot of you caught it over the weekend. So that comes in at number 1. Number 2, Unsolved Mysteries. I've spoken so much about this show last week. I love this series, even though it's a little bit more of the same. I have a video, I have a clip out of my thoughts on it and my review that I did from the last podcast last week. So do check it out if you're interested to hear my thoughts. But a lot of you are still watching this show, which is great. So that just means that they're probably, well, I already know they already have 6 more episodes coming in later this year. I hope they keep this going. And from recent articles I've read, a lot of you have provided a lot of great insights on some of the classic, on some of, not classic, but some of the unsolved cases there. So very good stuff. And I'm hoping that they could create some sort of separate episode that, kind of reveals or discusses some of the updates with these cases based off of viewer feedback and tips and hints there. So that comes in at number 2. Number 3, Down to Earth with Zac Efron. I was not aware of this series, but after reading a little bit more about it, I guess you have Zac Efron, who travels around the world with a wellness expert named Darren Olian to find healthy, sustainable ways to live. From what I've heard and from what I've seen, as far as reviews are concerned, it's very educational and a lot of people seem to be digging it. And it's kind of interesting that this comes in around this time too, when we are living in a time where, maybe, finding different ways to sustain a healthy, livable life is something that we should start considering, with the pandemic and everything like that happening around us. So very interesting stuff. I may try to catch this myself and see what I think about it. So sticking with Zac Efron, you have number 4, Dr. Seuss's The Lorax. Zac Efron actually provides the voice here as the main role. This animated movie came out actually back in 2012. So I don't know if it's tied into his appearance on number 3, but you also have Taylor Swift providing a voice here in this animated movie. So, just a great movie for kids and families to watch together as a whole. Number 5, you have the new Netflix series Warrior Nun. I have still yet to watch this. Again, just really busy with watching so many other things. But that still stays healthy at number 5. Number 6, another new addition here. You have the Epic Tales of Captain Underpants in Space. Classic kids series. They've made already several movies here based off of the popular book, kids book. So that comes in at number 6. Number 7. Now this is, I would probably say out of all of this, with the exception of the Old Guard, Unsolved Mysteries, this is something that you should keep your eye on, and I'm going to try to watch myself. It's a new Netflix movie called Only. Now, the story behind this movie, it kind of causes a little bit of controversy from what I've read online. I myself was not aware of this movie, but apparently it was a pretty decent hit at Sundance last year. But, and this is going to probably be a little freaky to a lot of you guys, but just listen to me describe the synopsis here and how timely it is. And again, this is a movie that came out last year. So it's a couple who must endure a self-imposed quarantine and elude authorities after a mysterious virus proves lethal to the world's female population. You had a series before on network television that talks about the last, people on Earth. You have a very famous comic book series that talks about the last man on Earth. So now you have a situation where some virus is wiping out the female population. Very interesting stuff and very unusual timing, or maybe perfect timing. That's why it found itself at number 7 over the weekend, where we are currently in a pandemic situation and there's been quarantining happening since March. So another thing to note here, you have Frida Pinto as the lead actress, but you have Leslie Odom Jr. as the lead male actor here. And, for a lot of you who watched Hamilton on Disney Plus recently, and you want to see more of Leslie Odom Jr., here you are. You have a movie with him in it here. So Only comes in at number 7, and I will do what I can to watch this because I find it extremely fascinating. Number 8, Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich, the documentary series about the inner workings of the whole Jeffrey Epstein scandal. So that comes in at number 8. I'm sure this kind of rose back into the top 10 because of the recent activities with some of his co-conspirators, or some of the people that were kind of working in conjunction with him to kind of keep a lot of these secrets secret, came out into the news within the last week. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people wanted to catch up on all that stuff. So that comes in at number 8. Number 9, you have The Babysitter's Club. This is Netflix's new reboot of the beloved young adult series. So this was higher in the list last weekend, but I think it's because it debuted last weekend. So finds itself at number 9. And number 10, the Netflix movie Desperados. It's kind of like a girls' trip to Mexico because they're trying to recover incorrectly sent email to one of their boyfriends or ex-boyfriends or what have you. So it's like one of those comedy romps that everyone are enjoying. So that is pretty much your top 10 from the weekend. So as always, let me know in the chat whether you're watching live or in a replay, if you've watched any of these, what your thoughts are on anything there. Do you recommend anything? Let us know kind of like what you recommend, and what you guys are really finding interesting to watch out there into the streaming universe. Another thing I wanted to note, and normally if this was a normal season, I would be reviewing box office numbers, and I tried to do that in the beginning, but a lot of the box office were like these horror B-movie type of releases that you could only find primarily at drive-ins. The trend still continues, but one thing to note is that over the weekend, because of drive-ins and because of a lot of, these drive-in theaters taking advantage of re-releasing some previous blockbusters to kind of drive up attendance, no pun intended. The Empire Strikes Back actually claimed the number 1 spot in the U.S. box office, a movie that pretty much debuted over 40 years ago. So some interesting numbers here is that the estimates that came in is that The Empire Strikes Back pulled in between $400,000 to $500,000 from Friday to Sunday at the local drive-ins. So that is phenomenal. And we've been seeing numbers like this with other movies. Like we saw this with, I believe, similar numbers to Jurassic Park and other Spielberg classics like E.T. and Jaws. So now it looks like it's Disney's turn to kind of claim the roost here. So you have that, and then you also have, Disney taking over the second and third spots here. So Black Panther actually came in at number 2 with $110,000, and Inside Out that pulled in $106,000 over the weekend. So some interesting insights there on the weekend box office numbers when it comes to the drive-in situation and drive-in theaters in general. So interesting stuff there. So before I jump into other interesting news and kind of review kind of what I watched over the weekend and provide my thoughts on that, before going live today, I did read up some very sad news, and we also received sad news from over the weekend about several passings. So Naya Rivera, the news broke out last week that Naya Rivera went missing in a lake somewhere in California. She was with her 4-year-old son, and they rented a boat, and they decided to go sailing in this lake area in California. And it was a rental, and since the rental never came back, they kind of went out looking for the boat, and they found the boat, but only the son was on the boat fast asleep. So Naya unfortunately went missing. A body was found this morning, and unfortunately it is the body of Naya Rivera. So it has been confirmed that she did pass away, I guess while swimming by accident. I guess it was an accidental drowning. She's 33 years old, and it's very, very young to go out and to leave a son behind like that. If you're not too familiar with who she is, she was very well known for her part in Glee as one of the cheerleaders who went from being kind of a mean girl to singing sensation within the Glee group there. So very, very sad news there to talk about. So, and Kelly Preston, a famous actress who has been married to John Travolta, also passed away after battle with breast cancer. So she was 57. And Kelly Preston, again, if you are not familiar with her work, she kind of made her debut in a movie called Christine. That is the Stephen Classic adaptation there that came out in 1983. Then she was in movies like Jerry Maguire, which she's probably better well known as in that role in Jerry Maguire. She was in Twins, From Dusk Till Dawn, Waiting to Exhale, Jack Frost, Sky High, The Last Song, Addicted to Love, just to name a few there. Again, it's an unfortunate news for a very tough time that we're having this year. So, and I know, there are a lot of people who've been dying because of the pandemic, and who died because of other reasons too. And usually when a death is highlighted by a famous actress or actor or whoever, someone that is of a celebrity, that always seems to take center stage. But I think if anything, it just kind of shows us how more precious life is and how in a blink of an eye, anything can happen. So, take this moment to really cherish, show love and appreciation to those around you, because you never know what could happen at any given time. So as always, thoughts, prayers, and condolences go to the friends and family of Naya and Kelly there. So no easier way to kind of transition off of that, but several things that I watched over the weekend that I wanted to highlight. And here's my plea to you guys. All right, hear me out. If you're like me, you're a huge fan of The Princess Bride. That movie is easily top 5, if not top 3 in my list of top movies. And I know I've said top 5, top 3 before, but I also said that in any given moment, those movies and titles can change, right? But Princess Bride will always be up there for me. I've loved the movie ever since I saw it as a kid. I rewatch the movie at least once, if not twice, every year. I've read the book 5 times. It's one of those timeless classics for me that no matter where you are in what stage of your life, you're always going to appreciate this movie for the heart, the emotion, the humor, the comedy, and just a cast of characters within this movie. So when I heard that Quibi, the struggling new streaming platform, was doing something with The Princess Bride, I was very skeptical and very curious. Then I heard that it was a collaboration with a bunch of different actors and actresses in Hollywood that filmed scenes that are spliced together to recreate the entire Princess Bride movie. And then I was intrigued, right? But still skeptical, because again, something this big of an uptaking to be streamed on a platform, Quibi, that was originally meant to, provide short-term entertainment for people who are commuting or people who are waiting in line at the bank or, taking a break from work, because everything on Quibi are short snippets. It's supposed to be from 5 to 10 minutes or whatever the case is. And it's a time killer, and it kind of placates on the unfortunate ADD that a lot of our society suffers from, right? So I decided to give it a shot over the weekend. And the good thing I love about the Quibi app is that it does allow you to cast on your TVs. So I had it cast on my Chromecast. If you are a Princess Bride fan, especially a diehard Princess Bride fan, and you're not watching this, something's wrong with you. This is brilliant. the way that they did this, and the way that they kind of combined all of these clips together to create the entire Princess Bride storyline. And you have multitude of actors, actresses, other stars from other genres, all coming together to recreate a lot of these scenes. You even have moments where in one scene you have 2 or 3 actors playing the same role, and they just kind of switch back and forth between all of these roles to just kind of go along with the storyline. It's just amazing of an effort that was put together, and huge kudos to Quibi to landing something like this. So the whole thing was kind of done for a charity for the World Kitchen, which was great. But and do yourself a favor, if you do end up watching it on your phone, make sure you watch it in landscape mode, because what it does is that while you're watching the acting, on the side, it will tell you who they're portraying, who was the original portrayer, and what the character is in the movie. So it for those who may not be familiar with Princess Bride, it kind of gives you that insight there. And then the score was also reproduced, and they kind of highlight who was reproducing that moment of the score during the time you're watching it. Again, let me go through the cast of characters, the cast of actors and actresses here, because it's just it's mind blowing how many people showed up to do this. It was just phenomenal. You have Jack Black, Diego Luna, Caitlin Dever, Finn Wolfhard, King Bach, Dave Bautista, David Spade, Tom Lennon, Oliver Lennon, Patton Oswalt, John Hamm, and that's just to name a few. You have Jennifer Garner. You have Cary Elwes shows up, and I'm not going to reveal who he plays, but I was so thrilled when he just showed up on screen. You have Neil Patrick Harris. You have Common. You have Tiffany Haddish. You have Key from Key and Peele. You have Sophie Turner, and it's again, I'm just naming just a few. It brought a huge smile to my face, and I think, look, we've been in this quarantine pandemic situation for a very long time now, and I think mentally we are all severely drained, and we're all severely depressed in our own way because of everything that's happening, and not because of the pandemic, but because of all the other stuff that's been happening. Whether it's the Black Lives Matter stuff, the government pissing us off left and right, the economy, whatever the case is, we're all stressed out, and I think this provides a perfect opportunity for us to kind of unwind, shut our minds off with everything around us, and enjoy something that it's pure. It feels so pure, just like the movie, and it's so entertaining and so enjoyable. I teared up a lot, because it filled myself with joy and happiness, and it was just a very well done series that they did there. It's 10 episodes. They're roughly around 5 minutes each, and I know when you kind of combine it, you're like, wait a minute, it seems very short. They managed to cover the entire movie from beginning to end. You have Charlize Theron also in it. I'm remembering as I'm looking back of all the different actors and actresses who portrayed certain roles in this movie. And what I have also loved too is that they were very clever in utilizing Lego for some of the more action heavy scenes, and even that was very charming and endearing on how they did that. You have one episode where, if you're an Office fan, you would really be happy, because you have a lot of Office cast members who show up, and kind of it feels like they claimed ownership of that one episode. So look, I'm not gonna go further into it, but I think you get the gist here. Highly recommend this. And again, if you are a huge diehard Princess Bride fan like I am, do yourself a favor. Quibi offers a 2-week trial. And if this is the only thing you're going to watch on Quibi, it is well worth the 2 weeks. And then you can cancel, do whatever the hell you want with it. Because honestly, as I'm scrolling through the rest of the show list, I have no interest in watching anything else. And I'm happy that I got to catch this, The Princess Bride at home, as they call it. So do yourselves a favor. You won't be sorry. Trust me. So moving along, another thing that I watched over the weekend is the brand new Hulu movie, Palm Springs. So Palm Springs, basically, think of Groundhog Day. Think of Groundhog Day, and but with the exception of, instead of one person reliving the same day over and over again, you have another one. You have someone else to join in the ride with you. So, not a spoiler in the least, because you see that in the trailer, but I did watch it over the weekend. It's been getting good reviews, so here are my thoughts on it. It's fun. It is a fun movie, and again, this was another movie that I was highly skeptical about. And Andy Samberg, for me personally, look, I love the stuff he does with Lonely Island, the music and everything, hilarious stuff, but as an actor, it's hard for me to get into liking him seriously. And the only reason why is because, and there are moments in this movie which kind of took me back. In moments where he's trying to be serious, one simple smile or smirk makes me feel like he's being goofy. And I don't know if it's because of how his face is, or if that's really like his type of personality, but it really throws me off. And I was afraid that was really gonna play heavily in me wanting to like this movie, but that for me was a very small part of the movie that I didn't like. Everything else was enjoyable. It was a very interesting story, and how they kind of explained how these two individuals have been reliving their lives over and over again, the same day over and over again, how they met, how they're kind of connected. J.K. Simmons pops in and plays kind of a surprise part in this movie, which I won't go into because that is gonna dive into a little bit more spoiler territory there. But it's a very well done movie. It had a good amount of laughs for me, but I think this is another movie, just like how Eurovision turned out. Instead of it being a full laugh out loud romp, don't expect that. Expect it to be partially that. But then you also get a very heartfelt, heartwarming story here. And it's really the story between two characters, how they decide to spend their time, living the same day over and over again. And how by doing that together, the bond that they share, or the bond that they created, is a bond that is well worth exploring and moving on with. So, and also very interesting end and how they decide to correct things. For those of you who are very familiar with Groundhog Day, you know how that ending movie. And look, that movie is so old now. If you haven't watched it, you're probably, one, not planning to watch it, or two, you have no interest, or else you would have found time to watch it by now. At least that's my take on it. But, at the end of Groundhog Day, basically, he learned his purpose, and, he kind of, did everything that was not selfish, because he was a selfish individual. And he kind of, made sure to live a day that he lived for everyone else around him instead of himself, right? And that's what clicked, and that's what, made him, jump right back into things again. Now, does this movie have similar tropes to that? Yes, it does. But they do have enough originality in there where it makes it feel a little bit different. When I was watching the movie, I never found myself harking back to Groundhog Day. It's like, oh, they did this in a Groundhog Day, or, oh, I've seen this already before. I mean, there were some things that were somewhat similar, but I rarely found myself kind of comparing that to the events that happened in Groundhog Day. So it is original enough, and I think it does make a huge difference because it's not just one person. Now you have two people kind of like experiencing it together. So I really, really enjoyed it there. And like I said, with the exception of Andy Samberg's facial expressions and kind of his goofiness, I think he did a really good job. I think this is one of my favorite acting roles of his in any movie that he's come out with. And I haven't even seen that Superstar movie, which I also heard good things about, but this is definitely a great movie. I have to give a shout out to Kristen Milioti. She was fantastic. She was really, really well cast, and her acting is so top notch. This is my first exposure to her. I know she was featured in the sitcom How I Met Your Mother, and I believe, as I'm reading things here, she won a Grammy Award and was nominated for a Tony. So very, very interesting stuff. She was also in The Wolf of Wall Street, and she was featured in the second season of Fargo. So definitely check this movie out. It's on Hulu, so if you already have Hulu, it's there. This is a perfect streaming movie. This is, I think, Hulu, or even if it ended up on Netflix or whatever the case is, it's a perfect spot for this. This is not really one of those movies you needed to go to the movie theater for. It's a perfect watch at home, whether it's, by yourself or with a friend or a loved one. Very easy to get into, very short. I believe it's like an hour and a half ish. So it didn't feel long, but it was enjoyable from start to finish. I really liked it. I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm pretty sure if you're like me, and I say that a lot, you will like it as well too. So, if I was to give a rating for Palm Springs, I would definitely give it a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 palm trees. Let's go with that this time, since I like to be thematic. But yeah, it's definitely a well worth watch. Like I said, it does have moments of comedy in there, which I found really funny. And then there's a good amount of heartfelt moments and serious moments, and moments that tie the characters very well together. And the chemistry between these two was pretty phenomenal as well. So yeah, check it out. If you do check it out, please let me know your thoughts, and if you are on the same page as I am. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised and pleased on how well I love this movie. So it's on Hulu. Go ahead and check it out. Cool. So with all that being said, I think the top news that kind of dropped this morning, if you are someone who goes on Twitter and has a Twitter account and you follow certain things, you were probably hit with this photo. So yeah, Disney Plus is making a Clone Wars spinoff based on The Bad Batch. So if you are not familiar with who the Bad Batch is or what the Bad Batch is, then you probably didn't watch the last season of Clone Wars. So, here's a quick synopsis, and again, spoiler alert for those of you who didn't watch it or didn't have a chance to watch it yet. But the first several episodes of the last season of the Clone Wars was centered around this group called the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch is a unique squad of clones who vary kind of genetically. So in a way, they were rejects. When they're producing the clones and you come up with your clone army, these are ones that had, unfortunate deformities or inconsistencies. So they were kind of cast aside. But what they did is that they made them into this ragtag mercenary kind of group who they're willing to do the impossible. They're willing to do the gritty, down and dirty stuff that most people won't. So they're very reliable in that aspect, and they've proven to be very successful as well. So I think, for those who watched the last season of the Clone Wars, thought that this storyline was very unique and interesting. And I think a lot of us were kind of hoping that we could learn more about their backgrounds, learn more about some of their adventures and their missions. So I guess this is what they're doing. So yeah, the series follows the elite and experimental clones of the Bad Batch, first introduced in Star Wars Clone Wars, as they find their way in a rapidly changing galaxy in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars. So it is going to be kind of interesting, because it sounds like this series is going to be taking place after the whole Clone Wars are done. So that leads me to question and wonder, are we going to be seeing them in the backgrounds of the events that happened in Rogue One? Or, things that happened that led up into episode 4, because, after Order 66 happened, that is already around the Revenge of the Sith era. And then you move into several years fast forward to the events of, Rogue One, maybe the events of Rebels. So it'll be interesting to see, what they're doing, I guess, in the background during these moments and during these series. So very interesting stuff. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, yes. So Dave Filoni will return as executive producer. Athena Portillo, Brad Rao, and Jennifer Corbett also executive producers. So, again, how involved Filoni will be, I'm pretty sure he will be very heavily involved because he's very protective of his characters. But that just means that this is going to be top-notch, top-quality series that I'm surprisingly looking forward to. So this is supposed to premiere next year in 2021. So very interesting stuff there. Very interesting news, and I'm very curious of how they're gonna approach it, right? So moving on to other bits of news here. Just give me 1 second, guys. So something else that I found very interesting that popped up this morning, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick here. So I had no idea that they're making an animated comedy Star Trek show. So I guess it's called Star Trek Lower Decks. It's a show that will be premiered and shown on CBS All Access. So it's a spinoff, apparently, spinoff of the long-running franchise. Rick and Morty veteran Mike McMahon develops the series, which focuses on the support crew that lives in the bowels at the very bottom of the USS Cerritos, known as one of the Starfleet's least important ships, set in the Next Generation DS9 era. Okay, it's going to be a 10-episode series, which already was renewed, okay? So it sounds pretty comical, pretty hilarious. So why don't we go ahead and let's just watch this real quick here. I'm watching this on the fly with you guys. I have not seen this yet, so.
First contact is a delicate, high-stakes operation of diplomacy.
So I could take
One must be ready for anything.
Are you pretending to do a captain's log?
We're all supposed to keep logs.
Okay, let me listen to it.
No, go away. Leave me alone.
I can't believe you're wasting your shore leave on this. Whoa. This is the greatest ship I've ever seen. Hey, you, bring girl. Pump this. Don't pass out. Oh. Sorry. I'm good at exploring strange new worlds and solving space mysteries. Let's see what I got to say.
It looks beautiful.
Waste removal.
That's Klingon prison stuff.
Ensign, do you see a captain's chair in your future?
I hope so, ma'am. Hey, if I part my hair like this, do I look more promotable or less?
The Cerritos might be falling apart, but that's our job to keep it together.
Oh, look, they got the board.
You are a natural born
That's interesting.
Okie dokie.
And we're here?
No, we're actually way down here.
Lower decks. Next.
My senior staff are always up for a challenge.
Nothing like a cold beer after a smooth second contact.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah!
It is better down here where the real action is.
We're gonna surf side by side. An elite team.
We're not really elite. We're more like the cool, scrappy underdogs.
That's pretty funny. It's very
getting fired for
again, with that theme of ragtag group.
Lives are at stake, but our crew is ready and focused.
Suicide
This
Squad-ish.
is the new shuttle with the blast shield. The blast
Stop it.
shield
No,
is the
it
blast shield.
works.
And
Yeah,
it
it
comes
works.
down and it
You
goes
don't
up.
have to.
Blast
Stop it.
shield. We live on a spaceship. Nobody is dying from a spear wound. Hang in there. You got this.
I mean, this definitely has a lot of Rick and Morty.
Funnest frontier? Long-range
You know.
sensors have located a very sexy...
Oh, no!
Oh, wow.
This and also that.
That's pretty insane.
You almost phasered me!
Calm down. It's set to it was set to stun.
Nice. All right, August 6th. So, yeah, look. believe it or not, I have not really watched a lot of Rick and Morty. So I am not that well versed and familiar with the series or the creator. Obviously, I've seen a lot of, images, and I know there's a huge fan base when it comes to Rick and Morty. So, if you are a fan of Rick and Morty, you're definitely, I can tell, you're going to be a fan of this for sure. If you're a Star Trek fan and looking for something that's more on the comical side of things, this looks like that's going to provide that for you. It looks pretty entertaining. It looks pretty funny. I do like it that they are, again, ragtag group, not often thought about, behind the scenes of a starship, getting to see what they're involved in and how they kind of participate. It'll be interesting to see if the series kind of, cross paths with some of the characters that we are very familiar with, like especially in Star Trek Generation and Deep Space Nine. So it looks fun. It looks like a lot of fun. So something definitely possibly to check out. But again, it's on CBS All Access. I don't have CBS All Access. I'm not going to pay another subscription fee for another platform service because I have too many to worry about. So, if I am ever going to watch this, it will probably more than likely be another free trial, or, if I could somehow VPN to another country that has this on Netflix or something like that, then maybe I'll do that. And it's unfortunate too, because if it does end up being a really good series, then it's not really going to get the best acclaim out there. And that's really unfortunate because, these series, I'm sure, depend on subscriptions to kind of keep things afloat. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so that is the new Star Trek Lower Decks trailer. So that was pretty entertaining. I like that. Moving on. So something, again, interesting to note here. So Saturday, you had Disney World that decided to go ahead and move forward with the opening of Disney World in Florida. Florida, their cases of corona have been astronomically bad. I believe certain days they've clocked in at 13,000 infections or reported cases. Right now, they are, again, the hotbed of corona cases here in the U.S. And a lot of us, including myself, thought it was still a very bad idea to open up Disney World this weekend. Disneyland in California is still not open, and they're still, it's TBD to kind of decide when that's going to open up. So, the only Disney parks that opened up beforehand were, you had Shanghai and Hong Kong, and then Japan is probably the last of the overseas Disney parks that opened up. So it kind of hit the news this morning that Hong Kong Disneyland decides to close again because of recent spikes in corona cases in Hong Kong. So it was announced this morning that they would close Hong Kong Disneyland due to a rise in coronavirus cases in China. So they're saying it's temporarily closed, but there's no mention as to when it will open up again. I believe the daily cases have shot up to 50 cases per day, and they are just doing their best to make sure that they don't cause additional spreads because of the attendance at Disneyland. In conjunction with this, they also decided to close cinemas in Hong Kong. So all the cinemas in Hong Kong are closing their doors again, starting this Wednesday night, because of the uptick in corona cases. So, in Japan, they've hit record numbers of 200 cases per day recently. And in Japan, they've fully, opened up and pretending like it's back to business over there. But now they're seeing a huge amount of corona cases rise up to highest numbers since probably February or March. You have the Tokyo government that is willing to pay nightclubs and hostess clubs up to 500,000 yen to close down, until further notice. Like I said, Florida has so many cases. So is it a great idea to have these parks open? I know, trust me, I know there are a lot of you out there who are hankering to go out. The local pools in my neighborhood were swamped over the weekend, and a pool is not a pristine place I would think of right now to go to with this current pandemic happening. But it's not stopping people. And I understand business needs to thrive. We need to get the economy back rolling, but this thing is not going away, folks. It's around. And, people, the debate about wearing masks. I mean, I wear a mask. I have to, because, I want to be safe. I have no health insurance, just to be completely honest with all of you. I want to make sure that I don't get sick and I don't get others who are around me sick as well. It's respect. So I don't understand what's happening with a lot of, folks out there, but it is unfortunate. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see things like this happening to other type of venues in other countries. And like I said, this is going to be an ongoing thing until we get that, vaccine or some sort of treatment that is well researched, tested, documented with a proven track record. Then things can slowly start, getting back to normal. But until then, we need to be extremely careful, not only with how, we live our lives, but how businesses decide to operate. So yeah. So it's just some interesting stuff there. Again, it's unfortunate, and not something that I really like to discuss and all that, but it does kind of fall within the pop culture realm, so to speak. So yeah. So that is what's going on there. So last week, the big news that kind of hit was it looks like HBO Max is getting a Batman TV series that is supposed to be kind of like a companion to the Matt Reeves movie that he's currently working on. And Matt Reeves is heavily involved in this Batman TV series. But news kind of for more clarification came out is that the Batman series that they're currently working on will be a prequel. Basically, the series is supposed to really go into depth about the Gotham police department. So basically some insights here. So Variety's Justin Kroll says that the show, which is currently being described as an adaptation of the Gotham Central comics, will be set before when the Batman is set and dive into how Gotham became corrupt and infested with criminals. So it's interesting. Honestly, I think before I learned about this bit of news here, I was a little bit more excited about the series. I was hoping that it would have been kind of, it's more of like the background. And I've noticed that there's a trend here, where I'm very interested in the inner workings behind the scenes of big events that happen, right? I was a huge fan of Doom Patrol back in the day. And if you're not familiar with not Doom Patrol, sorry, Damage Inc. Yes, Damage Inc. Damage Inc., if you're not familiar with that comic series, basically, it's an organization that cleans up the mess of all the superhero battles and all that, and the cost that the city goes through to kind of rebuild everything. I love those things because I'm curious. I want to know, hey, Batman decides to blow up a chemical plant. How does the city recover from that? What does the police department do to clean things up or describe it to media outlets or whatever the case is like that? Because we don't really get to see that thing. So I was kind of hoping that this TV series would be a little bit more in the lines of that. But to hear that it's going to go into how Gotham became corrupt and, all that stuff. I mean, I feel like we've seen a lot of that already before. I never watched the Gotham network show, but I thought that was supposed to serve the purpose for that. I mean, when I watched the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, I thought that kind of dove into a little bit of how possibly Gotham became corrupt, because it was like a movement instead of just, a series of events. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm that excited. I will more than likely check it out, but at the same time, I'm not super excited like how I was last week when I read about the news. So additional clarification there. Moving on, in the video game world. So yesterday, Ubisoft had their Ubisoft Forward game showcase, and there were several things that were showcased throughout the show. I live streamed it on Sunday on Twitch. By the way, you could check me out on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and possibly moving forward Sundays, as I play through certain games, do some throwback classics, and enjoy some Star Wars Battlefront fun. But if you want to see my schedule, do check me out on social there. But anyway, Ubisoft kind of highlighted several things here. One thing, of course, that everyone was really waiting for was the Far Cry 6 announcement, because of the inclusion of Giancarlo Esposito, who apparently who is apparently going to be the big villain here in this series. So they did show an extended trailer at the end of the showcase to show that they were very heavy with Watch Dogs stuff. So Watch Dogs Legion will be available on October 29th. And basically this takes the Watch Dog universe into a different perspective and era, where not only do you don't only have to play necessarily one character. You could be whoever you want. You could play as a construction worker. You could play as an elderly lady or what have you. I do like that aspect where it kind of it's more, yes, it's open world, but it's also open world to who you want to be. And you can inhabit the role of a lot of different folks within that universe. So very interesting stuff there. I do like that. They went into a lot of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And they finally showed us some gameplay footage there. The combat system looks a lot of fun. As I mentioned during my stream, it very much reminds me of the Shadows of Middle-earth kind of gameplay, battle system wise. You could choose between a male or female character, which is, I think, new to the series. I thought that was very, very interesting. The only thing that kind of threw me off, and I'm still not sure about, is how does this really play into the Assassin's Creed universe and kind of lore? Because I only played the first 3 Assassin's Creed, so I haven't played any of the recent iterations of the series. But I always was under the impression that Assassin's Creed, at least each game, there is a certain purpose where you would have to go back in time to portray a role within this certain time period or this certain, decade, to right a wrong or solve a mystery of something that was plaguing whatever for years and years and years. So here with Valhalla, it just looks like a straight up, you're a Viking, you are ravaging and raiding lands to claim your prominence and your kind of overall dominance of the world. That's what it looks like to me. And if that is the main focus of the game, then it could be anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be Assassin's Creed for me. So I don't know how that plays out. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot more to be revealed there. So I guess we'll just have to wait to see what's going to happen with future reveals. But it was also announced that Valhalla will be available on November 17th. They also went into the Hyperscape. That's their new online battle royal game. With the open beta that's already started over the weekend. It started as of yesterday. If you are a fan of a lot of these battle royale games that are popular nowadays, the one spin here is that audience participation can change the gameplay. And I thought that was a huge call out that I found very interesting. The fact that, if you're watching, let's say someone play on Twitch, there is going to be an add-on where you can vote. You'll have 3 options and you can vote on how the gameplay is going to change, whether, let's say, turn off gravity, or now everyone has unlimited ammo. It could really change the gameplay of everyone playing within that session. And I thought that was brilliant. It would be nice to see other games kind of iterate something like that, because you're now engaging the audience in watching. And as a streamer myself, that's one thing that I'm always trying to, figure out. How can I better engage those who are watching along with me, and make them feel like a part of what I'm doing, right? And I think that is a great way to do that. The game itself feels very like Ready Player One, where in essence you are playing an avatar, right? And you get to build your avatar the way you want it, and specialize in whatever you are interested in. So very interesting stuff there. I don't know if it's something that I'm gonna figure out, because again, I am not a huge fan of the battle royale type games. When it's like me against 500 people or whatever, that's just not fun. If I'm with a team, then that's different. That's why I like those Counter-Strike type games like Valorant. I like that. But for something like this, I don't know if it's something that I would be interested in. But I would say the main highlight or surprise for me and don't get me wrong, there were a lot of interesting things that was revealed, but it was Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. That was the one that kind of took it for me, because
The target is being held.
it starts off as, looking like, oh, here we go. It's another battle royale, maybe Counter-Strike type of game. And they're, slapping on the Tom Clancy name to it. But if you watch the trailer here, you see people from other Tom Clancy games represented in this. You see, Badlands represented. But the biggest reveal happens as the further you watch this. And a huge surprise. And, we'll just let the trailer play out here. And again, if you're a big fan of the Tom Clancy games, you see that a lot of similarities and maybe some familiar faces. But boom, here we go. If that doesn't look familiar to you, you'll see it even more so in a minute. Let's just let this play out a little bit. I do like, boom, there you go. So you have Sam Fisher, and Splinter Cell is heavily represented in this new game that they're working on. So think of it as a Tom Clancy kind of Fortnite clone. So it looks like this is going to be their new venture into bringing the Tom Clancy world into the realm of Fortnite and things like that. So I thought that was extremely fascinating. I thought that looked like a lot of fun. So I was really, really pleasantly surprised to see that. But overall, it was a decent showcase. It looks like they're promising more showcases in the future. So this was one of several. I think missed opportunity, Beyond Good and Evil. We still haven't heard anything about that game for years now. So I don't know if future iterations will kind of reveal that. Wait and see. But yeah, so that was Ubisoft, however you want to pronounce it, game showcase from yesterday. In other gaming news, huge news in the world of retro collecting and gaming. You have this extremely pristine copy of Super Mario Bros. For Nintendo, the original NES system. It's even encased and, officially graded. It pulled in at auction $114,000. So someone is a proud owner by shelling out that amount of money, and it lands itself in the record books as the most expensive game sold at auction. So very interesting stuff there. Kudos to that collector who had the funds. Now you own yourself an unopened copy of Super Mario Brothers. So good job. And lastly, with the summer here and the lack of true in-person convention season, you know, everything has been moving online. Like we saw yesterday with the Ubisoft Forward conference. You have the Cyberpunk series that came out. You have the upcoming later this month Xbox Series X conference. You know, you have the Nintendo Directs that happened. You had the Sony PlayStation thing. So, you know, the big ticket every summer was always San Diego Comic-Con. So Comic-Con did mention that they were going to move online this year for their what they're calling the Comic-Con at Home event. So they finally officialed their schedule of what's going to happen here. So I'm reading this off of Dark Horizon. So let me go ahead and you know, show you here. So the event will be free and open to everybody, which is great. So the new schedule has been released. The biggest of the schedule is that you have a Bill and Ted Face the Music event that's happening. So Keanu Reeves will be on hand for both that and the 15th anniversary reunion panel of Constantine. So that's pretty awesome. Charlize Theron will participate in a Q&A, while promotions for Antlers will see filmmaker Guillermo del Toro interviewing Scott Cooper. There's some director panels with Joseph Kosinski, who's doing Top Gun, Colin Trevorrow, and Robert Rodriguez. So you have the full schedule out, and you could easily find it online. But let's go through this. So on Thursday, you have, and this is July 23rd. So you have the 10 a.m. the all CBS All Access Star Trek series. So that would be interesting if you are a Star Trek fan. At 1 p.m., that looks interesting to me. You have a look inside Marvel's 616. So that is a Disney Plus panel. So that looks very interesting there. And then, 3 p.m., you have The Boys, Amazon Prime panel. So I'm pretty sure they're going to reveal a lot of what's going to be happening in season 2. So moving on to Friday on the 24th, that's when you have the Charlize Theron panel, which is a panel called Evolution of a Badass. And I think that is perfect. That is something I would love to watch there. Then you have, let's see, you have AMC's panel at 12 p.m. for Fear of the Walking Dead. And then at 1 p.m., I'm sure right immediately after that, you have the Walking Dead panel, and then the Walking Dead World Beyond at 2 p.m. Then you have at 3 p.m. Robot Chicken, Final Space, Primal, and Samurai Jack for HBO Max. I will watch that because of Samurai Jack and Primal. Being a big fan of that series and Tartakovsky's work in that, really, really want to watch that. If you're a Bob's Burger fan, 4 p.m., you have the Fox panel. For Archer fans, 5 p.m., you have that panel there. So moving on to Saturday. Saturdays are always like the big days. So, and it looks like that's going to be the same case here. So you have 11 a.m. Simpsons panel for Fox. Then you have the Phineas and Ferb movie panel at 12 p.m. 1 p.m. I'll be there. Constantine 15th anniversary film reunion. I love that movie. Very underrated in my opinion. You have 2 p.m. Family Guy panel for Fox. You have the 3 p.m. Bill and Ted Face the Music panel. And then 5 p.m. you have What We Do in the Shadows for FX. And then on Sunday you have Hoops for Netflix at 10 a.m. And then 11 a.m. you have Next for Fox. And at 2 p.m. you have A Conversation with Nathan Fillion. So I think, honestly, this is a great schedule. And for all this being free, I will totally spend a lot of time watching a lot of this content. They definitely have a lot for everybody. You will notice an absence of Marvel. And I think Marvel already announced last week that that is on purpose because they feel they don't have that much to showcase. I personally think it's because they're planning their own online streaming conference. And DC, we already know that they're doing their own as well. So that's why you don't see that much DC here. So yeah. So if there's anything of interest to you, check out that schedule. You can find it online, readily available for all of you to consume and watch. So, a lot to go into there. But yeah, that being all said and done, that's the hour or a little bit over, and that's the show. So thank you guys, as always, for watching, whether you are watching live or will be watching the replay. Again, you'll find me here every Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Again, I can't explain and stress how much of an importance that really helps with the algorithms and to help me, get out there so that I can continue to build this community of pop culture aficionados and fanatics like myself, and just create a great community as a whole for all things that we are passionate about. So if you're around, I will be moving onto Twitch roughly a little after 9 p.m. tonight to continue my Final Fantasy VII Remake playthrough. And for the rest of the week, you can find me on Twitch on Wednesdays and Fridays, and then Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Catch me in all the Paul programs as we wax as we wax poetic about all things within the gaming universe and geek culture in general. So until next time, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, be kind to one another, wear a mask, wash your hands, make sure you show appreciation and love for all those around you, because anything can change at any moment, and make sure that the rest of your week is as memorable as possible. So until then, until I see you guys again, peace and be good. Thanks, guys.